Hello, everyone. Welcome today again. We're going to talk about another exciting philosophical topic, and this time it's going to be the guise of the good. This is a topic in moral psychology. Moral psychology is a subfield of philosophy, and it connects ethics, philosophy of mind, um, a little bit of metaphysics of mind, metaethics, philosophy of action, and psychology. So it tells us about things connected to judgment, choosing, morality, and human psychology. We're going to look at a specific phenomena discussed within moral psychology. It is called the guise of the good. What is the guise of the good, or GOG for short? Well, guise of the good is a claim about a very strong connection between judgment and motivation. The core idea is roughly the following. If we judge something to be good, then we are motivated to act, to bring it about, or to prevent losing it. A way in which you can also put it, if we do action X intentionally, we think doing X is good. This is a very short, specific form. It is employed by an excellent philosopher, Sergio Tenenbaum. I recommend you to check out his papers if you find this topic interesting. Also, it means something else. It means that if we do not act to achieve, bring about something, or to prevent the loss of something, even though we could attempt doing so, we are not motivated to do so, obvious so far. That also means we don't really judge that thing, the thing we do not bring about, do not save, is really good. If we could have saved it, of course. Um, Now, the really good thing here probably implies that there is a comparative notion of goodness. We don't judge that to be the best thing. I'll give you an example because it's pretty abstract. Let's work with the example of Carla. She's a busy, diligent, hardworking student. As most students, she is short of on money. It is the last day of the month, so she hasn't received her salary or her student fellowship yet. And she's down to her last 15 bucks that she can spend. Usually, every month, she makes a donation of about $10 to $20 to a charity, to some kind of cause that she finds important. She finds these things good. This month, she hasn't donated yet. It has been financially a bit of a rocky, demanding month. Now, last day, she has a choice. She has to judge which option is better. She has the option to make a donation to a charity she just learned about. She thinks it's an excellent charity. It supports people in low-income countries and war zones who have trouble getting medication for their relatives, especially their older relatives or their children. Or uh, Carla could catch up with her friend, and Carla has been working really hard throughout the whole month. She hasn't had time at all to go out in a while. She hasn't seen this particular friend in a while, and now she finally has a wee bit of time, and her friend proposes checking out a new gelato place. It's going to cost about 15 bucks to get a drink and try out some nice gelato. So she has to decide. Um, she only has enough money for A or B, but not both. So she either makes a donation or goes out with her friend. And she's not interested in giving up both options. She has to judge which option is better. That is, which is the good thing in this situation. And according to the guise of the good, we can predict the following. If Carla judges that A is good, the donation, she's going to make the donation. If she judges that B is good, she's going to go out with her friend. And it won't be the case that she judges that A is good, but then she does B, or that she judges that B is good, but does A. Because according to the guise of the good, the connection between the judgment, what is good, and the motivation is really strong and close. Now, what does this mean about human action in general? Why is this interesting for philosophers and for ethics? Well, it's a very strong claim about the connection between judgment and motivation. Um, and if we are explaining the action of people or trying to understand the action of people, we could say, well, if somebody did do something, they thought that's good. That can be informative and interesting. Think about case when people are wondering why does a powerful government support the bombing of cities where many civilians are going to die. There has to be something that makes the politicians or the generals ordering these airstrikes or bombings or raids on the area where civilian casualties are inevitable and there might be very high numbers. There must be something that they think is good about this. It doesn't necessarily have to be the civilian casualties itself, but it has to be something that's good enough to warrant such a um, potentially unjust killing and murder or war crimes. Some questions come up, of course. What happens if someone maybe honestly says that they really judge A to be good, but nevertheless they do B? You can think of people who talk a lot about how they really want to work out, get into shape. Maybe they talk about how they really want to earn a good grade, really want to get on with their research or work or career or investments or whatever you can think about. I'm sure you have friends or you have been in such a situation, but then they don't do it. Well, there are two options. If they were not honest, sure, then the guise of the good is not relevant. If someone is just toying around with ideas, it doesn't mean they're lying. They're just thinking out loudly. Oh, maybe that's something I would like to do. GOG is irrelevant. But if someone honestly says that and they have the opportunity to actually try to do one of these things, but they don't do it, they do something else, what's going on? Well, one possible explanation that comes up is that this is a case of weakness of will. There is some kind of problem that severes the strong connection between the agent's judgment and their action. There is some reason why the judgment did not get translated into an effective motivation, or even if it has, that motivation could not move the agent to act. Something broke down in this process from reasoning, deliberating, thinking about the options, the reasons for the options, making a choice, making a judgment, settling on one of the options, and judgment translating into an action structuring and then action triggering and action guiding intentional motivational state. This is true and it's a good reply. It's plausible that weakness of will exists, but weakness of will has its own problems. So we're probably going to make a video at some point about it. It's not as easy to accept this as an explanation as you would think because um, when people are making judgments, it's very hard to imagine what else could happen between the formation of the judgment and the beginning of the action that could warrant this breakdown. It seems to many people, many philosophers and psychologists, that making a judgment is already the formation of an action guiding or action triggering structuring state. The second problem for GOG is why are some people who are capable, smart, and well informed, uh, maybe they have also the time and the resources, choosing to do evil, bad things? Well, one reply could be maybe they're evil, morally corrupt, greedy, love power, artful. I think this is plausible. This is the truth. If you think about certain political leaders, military leaders, it is obvious that their actions are guided by the love of power rather than justice or the interest of their country or voters, people they lead. Um, but even then, isn't it possible that for these people, what they choose seems good? Certainly, this is what the guys of the good would have us say, right? Because these people do what they do, they have to judge it to be good. Otherwise, they would do something else. Now, the problem is, this is either uninformative, it just tells us something like, well, people do what they want to do. But then the term good is not really helpful or informative in the name of this phenomenon, guys of the good. Um, it's just a relativistic term. People do what they personally, in their private reasoning, find at the moment to be attractive, beneficial, motivating. But we hope that the guise of the good is a bit more informative than that. And also, a somewhat implausible idea follows, namely that everyone who does something, if you stick with a stronger interpretation that people really want to do usually what they think is good, in a substantial sense, good, not a watered up sense where it just means, oh, whatever I want to do, whatever I'm attracted to at the moment. But really, there is some feature they think makes that thing good. Then all these people who are doing bad things turn out to be doing so ignorantly. They're probably just missing some information or they make some reasoning mistake. Something is blinding them to the fact that the choices they make are actually not, their judgments are actually not picking up good options. If they really knew what was good, they wouldn't do bad things. Now, I think this is not a very satisfactory reply either, because some people seem to be genuinely evil. They're willing and capable of doing bad things. They know that what they do is bad, and they nevertheless do it. So these are two issues where people who think the guise of the good is a real phenomenon. We really usually act under the guise of the good. This is an insight about how human judgments and motivations are linked up, at least in the case of conscious, intentional actions, conscious and or intentional actions. They have to say something about it. Philosophers and psychologists have responded to these problems, of course. We don't have time now to go into the details of that. Maybe later I'll make a video on that as well. But it's certainly something to ponder and an interesting idea about our motivational life. If you want to check out more ideas, I can recommend you Plato's Protagoras and Gorgias, where he discusses these issues. Aristotle's discussion of weakness of will in the Nicomachean Ethics is brilliant. It's very good and it helps to understand a little bit how weakness of will could be possible, and then maybe that could solve one of the two problems about the guise of the good. Thomas Aquinas, fantastic. In the Summa, he has several places where he discusses the will, judging something, the connection of our judgments to our actions. Elizabeth Anscombe is great in her book Intention. Um, Davidson has a paper on the weakness of will where he proposes a solution. I think that solution fails, but it's still a very interesting and unique solution. And in the last 2 decades, there have been a lot of good papers and books. I can't list here all of them. Please go to Field Papers or the Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy or the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy to check out more extensive bibliographies on this problem. But definitely Kieran Setia, Sergio Tenenbaum, and Katja Maria Vogt have written very exciting and interesting things. And they discuss potential solutions to two problems that face and maybe indicate that GOG is not true about our psychology. Have a look. Try to come up with solutions on your own as well, or arguments against GOG if that's the camp you want to belong to. And keep thinking. Enjoy your day. Thank you for the attention. Bye bye.